Welcome to today's Spotlight, and I am thrilled today to be joined by the wonderful Rathy Thiruchelvham from The Wholehearted Coach. One of the reasons I'm super excited to have Rathy featuring today is, well, there's two reasons actually. First reason being she has been recommended to me by a number of my senior HR network, which is fabulous. I do love referrals and recommendations. And secondly, and we've spoken about this before, Rathy, I love how you speak about the coaching style and the coaching that you deliver. You talk a lot about that kind of quiet strength, working with potentially, insightful introverts. And often when you speak to people about leadership and you ask them to, well, what are some of the words that you might associate with a leader? Words like, confident, extrovert, insightful, visionary. So I think that the whole reason I really wanted to feature you, Rathy, is I think you tap into and you speak to a lot of leaders who have that kind of quiet strength and how you work with that. So without further ado, I want to kind of put this over to you now to really kind of help people understand the type of coach that you are. So what's the thing that you would say you need your kind of clients or the people that you work with to know about you and why?
So thanks for that great introduction again.
That's all right.
For me, I think the key thing is often we go to coaching because we're looking for change.
Yeah.
We want to create something different. We're looking for a plan. And if I can be brutally honest, if a client is coming to me because they want to create action, they're looking for a to-do list, I'm the wrong coach.
Okay.
I am focused on, and the question I tend to ask is, who are you being? Who
Yeah.
are you being, not what are you doing? And
Great question. I might steal that.
and that can be it can be disarming and it can be bruising
Yeah.
because this world teaches us that what matters is what we do, our productivity, how much we deliver, how fast can we deliver it, can we spin plates, and then can we spin some more
Yeah.
because we need you to do more. So often when people come, they're like, I'm, they don't, they struggle with that question initially
Mm-hmm.
because it's not often you get asked, well, who are you being in this world?
Yeah.
And actually, what do you mean by that question? And what I'm interested in is, well, the life that you have created, is it aligned with who you are?
Yeah.
So are you the leader that you want to be?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I and I think when we sit with that question, often we're not. Um, and so coaching with me, working with me is really about going layers deep.
Yeah.
I'm really focused on if we get really clear about who you are and who you want to be, then the doing takes care of itself. You know,
Absolutely. That makes sense.
your to-do list becomes really simple because you're coming from a place of, I know who I am, I know my worth, I know how to have these difficult conversations.
Yeah.
I know when I'm saying yes, absolutely I'm a yes. And
Yeah.
actually, now I have the ability to say no and really stand behind my no and know that I'm not missing out.
Yeah.
So everything just becomes easier. So I want because this I want this for me, I want people to meet life with an ease and grace, even when stuff gets difficult, and as leaders, things get difficult a lot of the time.
Definitely. Definitely. I think that's so actually, even you talking there about, I think sometimes leaders become almost a victim of their own success because the more plates they spin, the the powers that be think, right, they can cope, let's give them more stuff to do. And the other thing that I would take away from what you've just said is also that ability to say no. it doesn't necessarily mean that that's a bad thing. But that's something that I've really learned, because I was definitely that person that said yes to everything. It was a bit like a black Labrador puppy. It's like, yes, yes, I'll do it. I'll do it. I let me please you. And then I actually realized through working with coaches, I'm actually not serving these people well, because I'm not actually the right person to help them. So it was about having the strength, that inner strength to say no. However, I can maybe point you in this direction. But I really resonate with that point you've made there, Rathy, because I do think learning and having the confidence to say no is as important, if not more, than having the power to say yes. Yeah. So thank you for that. Amazing. Love that. My next question was actually going to be around, when you're working with these leaders, because obviously you work, my goodness, with leaders from all different walks of life, industries, backgrounds, levels, etc. What is it you would say you really notice about the leaders that you work with?
Yeah, and I think one of the things you touched on in the introduction was about quiet strength.
Mm-hmm.
So quiet strength does sit under a lot of what we're trying to work with and cultivate and nourish and nurture. What I notice with the leaders I work with, it's often about, how do I get to be me in my role?
Yeah.
How do I show up as me and it's valued? And I guess the first thing is really to say that you need to value who you are as a leader. So we get to grips with what makes you you as a leader. How are you showing up right now?
Yeah.
We look at, where do you dial down your volume? In a space where it can be really noisy in leadership, not just in terms of personalities, in terms of work, the level of delivery you're expected to do. So how do we, as leaders, really understand, where are we dialing down our volume, where we really need to be dialing it up? What stops us from really using our voice? What is our voice?
Yeah.
What do I really want to say?
Yeah.
And in that work, naturally we look at values, we look at, where can I push up against the edges of my personality? Okay. So have I told myself I'm a people pleaser? Okay, well, how did that serve me before? Does it serve me now? What conversations do I need to have that I'm not having?
Yeah.
When do I back down when really I should just stand my ground? So we look at those spaces where we dial up the volume. And I guess often coaches talk about transformational change.
They do.
And I do believe in transformational change, yet transformational change for me is layers of subtle shifts on top of each other. And then you look back a year from now and you think, oh, wow, look at what I've accomplished.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that for me is that deep, profound change, not just as you as a leader, but as you as an individual, because now you're accessing more of who you are.
Yes.
Because you've learned to put down the stories of what you told yourself you were.
Absolutely. And
one of the things that I work with, and I know as HR practitioners, we are big on reflection.
We are, absolutely. We love to review, reflect, Rathy.
Yes.
Then reset.
And I want to say I'm not a fan of it. So that might be controversial, and I don't mean it to be.
Controversy, go for it.
So what I mean by that is, as leaders, we find ourselves in difficult situations and we'll say to ourselves, let's just get to the end of this and let's look back and let's see what I can learn.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, let's use this so it's uncomfortable. Let's turn towards the discomfort and let's see what we're going to learn about ourselves.
Yeah.
So let's sit in it. Let's be with it. So it doesn't have to engulf us. It doesn't have to take over our thinking. We can be with it in a really intelligent way.
Yeah.
Because I know when we're in points of stress can overwhelm us.
Yeah.
And it's how we start to navigate stress with a sense of detachment. So, how do we really use our sense of, well, who am I being right now? Is that serving me? Let's slow down a little and let's notice what's this discomfort teaching me? Not just about what I
Yeah,
need to deliver, the conversations, but what's it teaching me about me?
absolutely. Absolutely.
So, where am I stepping back from and where do I need to lean into? Sorry,
No,
you're
I
going
was
to
just
say
going to
something.
say, I think that's a really valid point because, human beings often, we wouldn't choose to put ourselves into a situation where we feel uncomfortable. But
Mhm.
I agree. I think some of our biggest learning experiences are in exactly that situation. So it's actually a very, insightful way of coaching because you can really help somebody understand actions, behaviors have perhaps led to that, and how, more importantly, how to come out of that in a much stronger position.
Yeah. And I think it's often the power of the reframe,
Yeah,
because when we're in it, we're like, I just want to get out of it. I
totally.
just get me to the end of this
Get
project.
out.
Yeah. Get me to the end of this project and all will be well.
Yeah,
I'll have delivered. I won't have to work with those people again, or I won't have to work with that client again. It'll all be good.
yeah,
And we're like, okay, but is that how you want to live your life?
yeah,
Because what if the next project is like this? So let's use this and let's really understand, well, what's showing up for you and
totally.
what's showing up for your clients, rather than trying to, as naturally part of being in that space is fixing and doing the external work. But doing the internal work means you can be in a place of really profound change as you're going through it and making that experience better.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I would advocate for that.
Yeah. And you talked there a little bit, what I'm hearing when you're speaking there, you're almost kind of using that kind of outside world as your, I guess, an access point to learning. And I know you've spoken before to me about, you know, figuring out, who we are, living in your heads, how much more powerful would we be if we actually use the wisdom in our bodies to really make those decisions? So are you able to tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. One of the other principles I work with is that our outside world is a reflection of our inner world.
Yeah.
So what that means is, let's use events, relationships, things that are happening in our material physical world as a way to learn more about ourselves.
Okay.
So when you start to look at life events like that, it it's empowering, because it becomes less about controlling and fixing the thing outside of yourself, more about understanding, okay, well, how have I played a part in that? How have I created that? What in this scenario is this here to teach me? What can I learn? And then ultimately, how can I set myself free from that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And coupled to that is, like you say, we're taught to live in our heads. This is where success is. Logic wins the day often, but yet your mind is always playing catch up with your body. Your body knows, when you make a decision and you have that, yay, that flight, soaring, and you also know when actually that didn't feel right. That should have been a no, but I
Yeah.
said yes. And your brain hasn't quite worked out why you should have said no, but
Yeah.
your body's telling you
Totally.
that.
Totally.
And we can call it gut instinct, whatever you want, a sixth sense, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it's, as leaders, how do we tune into that wisdom
Yeah.
and that expertise that's
Amazing.
really aligned to all our values? So some of the work I do with my clients is about using breath work.
Mm-hmm.
It is about advocating things like journaling, meditation. In some of my client sessions, we use meditation as a way really to understand what's going on, to reset, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but we do things like breath work and to try and create a daily practice where actually we're in control of our bodies. We are tuning in and we are lowering a baseline of stress.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when clients find their way to me, they're in a place of stress or they're in a place of
Yeah.
anxiety. And physiologically, we know breath work has a material
Yeah.
impact on stress and anxiety. And those are some of the tools that I play with, as well as movement work.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, absolutely accessing the body is a beautiful and powerful way to allow leaders to understand they are more than what they think they are up here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I tell you, what the thing that I think's got real relevance there is you talk there about, I guess, daily habits, and that's, well, I'm a great believer in sort of daily habits, because I do think if you can become consistent at something that you want to create a positive change in your life, if you can practice it consistently, daily, etc., you're much more likely to succeed, and it's much more likely, I guess, to embed in your behaviors and your actions. And even going back to what you're saying there about just living in your mind, your mind is one part of your whole body, your whole physiology. So I think there's some amazing pieces of insights in there, Rathy, that I'm sure the network will really be pricking their ears to and going, yes, absolutely, that sounds amazing. So on that note, my final question would be, this is maybe a bit mean of me, but hopefully you'll take it in good stead. What do you feel you could share with us, right now, that you feel could help us maybe shift things for us? So if people are watching this right now, which they will be, and thinking, gosh, I really want to do this, or I want to level up this type of behavior, what's the kind of advice you would give that we could practically use today to try and help us on that journey?
So two things probably that spring to mind. The first thing is your breath.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm going to ask you, Katie, to do this with me. So
Okay.
when leaders are watching, I'm going to ask them to do it as well. So I'm going to ask you to place your right hand over your chest, over your heart space, yeah, and your left hand over your tummy.
Okay.
And I just want you to notice when you're breathing, when you breathe in, is it your chest that's inflating or is it your tummy that's inflating? Just notice without judgment. Okay. So usually what happens is in times of worry or times of stress, we tend to breathe from our chest. And what I mean by that is when we breathe in, our chest inflates, and we breathe out, our chest deflates. Ideally, the situation we want to be in is when we breathe in, our tummy inflates, and we breathe out, our tummy deflates. The reason for that is physiologically, when we breathe from that place, we are activating what we call the vagus nerve.
Yeah.
And the vagus nerve is a way to trigger our parasympathetic nervous system, which tells us that we're safe. We're safe. There's no place to run. We're not in fear. We're not going to die. And often when we get in ourself lost in our to-do list, we can start thinking, this is really bad.
Yeah.
Things are running away from me. I don't know what I'm doing. How am I going to get through the day? We write our to-do list 10 times, 15 times, because it's a way of control. Using the breath and just gently being with your breath for a couple of minutes. And gently, if you notice you're breathing from your chest over a period of time, just gently shift from the breath in, inflating your chest, to inflating your tummy. And now you can notice that in yourself. So when you're breathing in, okay, I'm breathing from my tummy. We call it breathing from my tummy, but it's not breathing from your tummy. It's just, yeah. So I would really advocate, even if it's just a couple of minutes a day, you just sit with your breath rather than just using it when you need it.
Yeah.
That could be just a couple of minutes in the morning with your morning cuppa or during your day. even put a reminder in your diary to do
Totally.
2 minutes breath work.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that, actually. I like doing that. Then I do it. It's like, right, I've got to do it now because I put it in the diary.
And the other thing would be about if you were to think about your life right now,
Mm-hmm.
is there something that has a sense of giving you discomfort that doesn't feel quite right? And you're thinking about a solution, an external solution. So, what do I need to do to make it better? So, I'm going to ask you, okay, so what is that event, that conversation that you think you need to have? What is it teaching you about you? So, how are you showing up now
Yeah.
in that conversation, in that event? And
Mm,
how is that event asking you to show up? So, it's not about, it might be about control. You might need to do something different, but who are you being? And is it a pattern? Is it a pattern that
yeah.
repeats himself? If it's a pattern that repeats itself, okay, something that we need to learn about that.
Yeah.
So that would be a tip. Look at the outside world as an access point to your inner world and use that to reframe the discomfort.
Yeah. I honestly, Rathy, that's amazing. And I think really insightful actions that you can take right now that you get that immediate kind of aha moment, like spotlight. Pardon the pun, but you genuinely that wasn't deliberate at all, but it genuinely was just like, oh yeah, see what you're saying there. It's just really, really helpful. Listen, with your permission, Rathy, I would love to tag obviously yourself and your business in the video, because I reckon there will be a number of individuals that will want to reach out to you, if nothing else, just to kind of hopefully just make that connection. Because I know when I went out to market, sort of looking, because I really do believe in working with a coach. I think it's, in fact, I think it's almost, it should be mandatory in businesses. However, it's very difficult to know sometimes where to go because there are so many people. And that's why I like to feature coaches that have been recommended to me on the Spotlight series. So with your permission, Rathy, I will tag you in the comments so people are able to reach out to you if they do wish to connect and just maybe ask you a little bit more about your techniques and your practices. But I cannot thank you enough. You've been an absolute star, as I knew you would be. But I really enjoyed today's Spotlight. So thank you.
Thank you, Katie.